March 20th will be a day that I will never, ever forget. It was the day that two of the most important and significant men in my life and ministry passed away. My uncle, the late Evangelist Gene Martin, and the late Presiding Bishop of the Church of God in Christ, Bishop G. Patterson. My uncle, Evangelist Gene Martin, helped my grandmother to raise me. He started traveling with the late A.A. Allen in July of 1960. I was born November 1960. And all my life, all I can remember was my uncle traveling, singing, and preaching. He would always come in town and just spoil all of us. It spoiled me. I stayed with them and just made sure everything was good. We traveled all over the country. We would go twice a year to Miracle Valley, Arizona, there to the great camp meetings with the late A.A. Allen. We would go to tent crusades. And my uncle was just a great, great man. And he raised me and left such an impact and impression upon my life. 1976, he took me and a few of my cousins with him on the road. We traveled with him the whole summer. And then in 1979, I started traveling with him full time. And he trained me in ministry, in evangelism. He poured into me and taught me everything that he knew. And because of him, today I've got longevity. I'm still surviving and living and doing ministry because of the things that he taught me and the things that he shared with me. He shared his platform, his stage with me. He took me and introduced me to the world. Literally introduced me to people. I've stood on platforms, great platforms. I've stood in great pulpits. I've met great men and women of God. Because of him, he was my hero. He was the one that stepped back and let me share his spotlight. And I tell you, I will never, ever forget him. It was through my late uncle that I met the late Bishop G. Patterson. When I was about 11 years old, my uncle brought Bishop Patterson and his choir to his winter camp meeting at Jones Avenue, Church of God in Christ. And Bishop Patterson was not bishop at the time. He was Apostle Gilbert Patterson. And I'll never forget the message he preached, "Mr. Chairman, I nominate Jesus." And a few years later, I was reacquainted with Bishop Patterson, and he invited me to preach at his church. I'll never forget that first Sunday I preached for him at an 8 a.m. service. And he said, "It's communion, but you can preach whatever you want." And I remember preaching, "Tell the devil I changed my mind." After that, Bishop Patterson would invite me to come in. He would call me sometimes on the Thursday, say, "I'll see you Sunday." Sometimes he would call me on the Friday, say, "I'll see you Sunday." I'll never forget one time he called me, Mother Patterson called me first and said, "Your dad's getting ready to call you." And then he called me and said, "I can't make this engagement. Can you get to the airport and make it?" And I had to go home, pack a bag, and get to the airport, bought this ticket, and went and preached in his stead. That's the kind of person he was. When he trusted you, when he believed in you, he said, you're preaching this and you're preaching. I'll never forget one time I walked in to his office. He was on the phone. He pushed his Bible over toward me, and I asked him, "What does that mean?" They said, "That means you preaching this morning." He was the first one to introduce me to a national audience. He played me on his Sunday morning BET program. I had on a blue robe with gold piping on it, and preached that Sunday morning, The Seriousness of the Hour. He was the first one to give me a national appointment in the Church of God in Christ. He appointed me as first vice president for the Department of Evangelism under Bishop Richard White, who was the president at the time, Mr. Clean. And then 4 years later, he and the General Board appointed me the president, international president of the Department of Evangelism. And he would allow me to come and to share his space and, as the old people would say, pick his brain and talk about ministry, find out about things about ministry. I never forget one time I was about to quit ministry and give up, and I was in Memphis, and he called me and said, let's go to breakfast. We went to breakfast, and I never forget, as we were talking, I was sharing with him how I was feeling, and he looked at me and he said these words. He said, Dennis, I don't want you to ever let anybody make you think you can't preach. You're biblical. You've got a good message. I don't want you to ever let anybody make you think that you can't raise money, because you can. Don't want you to ever let anybody think that you can't work an altar, because you really know how to do it. And he said these words to me. He said, you are the full package. And what encouraging words to hear from a person of that stature. And because of those words and because of my uncle, I believe today that I've got longevity. I believe I'm still here and doing ministry, and the things I'm doing now, these men encourage me to do it. And I thank God certainly for them. And so today is March 20th. They're gone. They passed on this day, but as long as I've got breath in my body, I will never, ever forget these two men that made such an impression upon me in ministry and in life. And I thank God that they shared their time, their knowledge, their wisdom, their space with me. And I'm grateful to God. And I want to say today that I will always remember and love Bishop G. Patterson and my uncle, Evangelist Gene Martin.